Hey guys, hope you're having a great day, great week so far of training. Today's video I want to talk about on how to train for a half marathon in 2 months. Difficult. It would be much less difficult for an athlete that is very experienced, that has a lot of mileage underneath their legs, to prepare for a half marathon in 2 months, as opposed to somebody that's brand new to the sport, has never ran the 13.1 mile or 21.1 kilometer race. Ever. So I think that you have to definitely think long term when it comes to racing longer distances and trying to succeed in these distances, because the majority of the time we're always focused on quick results, and we get a lot of times athletes get depressed or frustrated when they don't see results as quickly as they would want. And usually if you're trying to cram all of that training in such a short amount of time, it's very, very difficult to really see legitimate results in the short term. If you're looking long term, I mean, all of my training programs on RunDreamAchieve.com, even the running courses that I've created, they all either are training programs that are specifically built for athletes that are trying to train for the half marathon, up or from the 5K up to the full marathon distance. But most of my training courses, actually all of my training courses and my running courses that I've created, are 16-week training schedules. And yes, I do have training programs that are separate from the running courses that are anywhere from 4 weeks all the way up to 16 weeks in length. So you can definitely take a look on RunDreamAchieve.com, see if any of those training programs or running courses are something that would be of interest to you if you're looking for a new strategy for your racing in as you lead into late 2020 and into 2021. But in terms of how to train for a half marathon in 2 months, like I said, I really think it's really important to think long term when you're preparing for this particular event. It's not a 5K or a mile or a 10K road race. There's more thinking that's involved. There's more preparation that's involved. If you're trying to, like I said, if you do have a lot of background in the longer distances, you've been training for a lot of years, and you want to prepare for a half marathon in a 2-month time span, if you have that background experience, you have that muscle memory, you've put in the hard long runs, you've done the necessary training, that it's going to make it a lot easier for you, especially to be able to prepare for that half marathon and to have a higher percentage or higher success rate in your preparation and as you lead into your race. In regards to somebody that's brand new to the sport, I think really just continuing to focus on building your mileage in progression. You don't necessarily have to do speed work, tempo runs, and long hard runs to run a half marathon. There's a difference between running a half marathon and racing a half marathon. And it really all depends on you as the athlete. What is your overall goal? Are you trying to break an hour and 30 minutes for the half marathon? If that's the case, you're going to need a little bit more time to prepare, a lot more patience, because an hour and 30 minutes for a half marathon, you need to average 6 minutes and 52 seconds per mile. What you're going to be needing to really focus on improving your lactate tolerance, doing those harder workouts where you're running at a higher percentage of your maximum heart rate. It's very, very critical to succeed in the half marathon distance. It comes down to really improving on your stamina and your strength. And to run a very, very fast half marathon, like something under an hour and 30 minutes, or even under 2 hours, really under 2 hours for the half marathon, you really have to be very fit endurance-wise, and you have to have done some form of strength and stamina workouts. But to be able to, how to train for a half marathon in 2 months, my advice to you is to continue to focus on building up your mileage. You're only giving yourself 8 weeks of training, so really, I would, in that particular amount of time, I would do maybe 2 weeks of easy mileage, leading into 4 weeks of specific training where you're trying to run at, near, or far below your goal half marathon race pace. and then spending the last 2 weeks, preferably the last 10 days, tapering down for your half marathon. 8 weeks is really not a lot of time to train for a half marathon, even if you're an athlete that's very, very experienced, that has a lot of background in the sport. As half marathon specialist, I ran an hour and 7 minutes and 6 seconds for the distance. And I know that having run that particular time for the half marathon, a lot of things that I was focusing on was long-term preparation. I knew able to run as fast as I was wanting to run for the half marathon distance in a short amount of time. So I had to continually focus on my leg turnover, working on my speed on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis to get to a point where I could run that fast, because I, maybe just like you, don't have a lot of talent. What I did have was a work ethic and a drive and focus, and that willingness to get out the door, put in the heavy mileage, put in the track workouts, the road sessions, regardless of what the temperature was out, if there was a blizzard out. You have to make up your mind what it is you want to run and what it is you want to do in the sport and what you want to achieve over the half marathon distance. How to run a half marathon in 2 months really comes down to really zeroing down in on what you want to run that half marathon distance in, and doing your very, very best at trying to train, a mix, training below your goal race pace, at your goal race pace, and maybe around 20 seconds slower than your goal race pace. A lot of that, the 20 seconds slower than race pace, is going to be where you're training more at your anaerobic threshold. I'm a big believer in extending the amount of time we spend at that anaerobic threshold. That's key, because the longer you can extend that amount of time that you're training at that particular, that's closer to around 88% to 91% of your maximum heart rate. That's a point where we start to just start to build up lactic acid in our bloodstream. The longer you can extend that, the better, because that is the point where we race at in our races. Regardless if you're training for a 5K or a marathon distance, you're always the effort that we race at is right around our anaerobic threshold. So it's very, very important to also spend time training faster than your goal race pace. Like if I was preparing for a half marathon, and what I've done in the past is I would get on, my goal ultimately was to run under 5-minute mile pace for 13.1 miles or 21.1 kilometers. I think that comes out to around 258 to 303 or 304 per kilometer for the distance. And ultimately, my personal best, I was able to average 507 per mile, or around, I'm just guessing, but I think it's around 310 to 312 per kilometer. So I knew for me to run a faster marathon, I had to work on my half marathon times. So with you, in training for a half marathon in 2 months, can you do this, and can you do it successfully? I think, again, it comes down to how much experience you have, what you're doing in your training. What are you doing in your off hours? What are you doing when you're off the track, when you're off training on the roads? Are you hydrating well? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you stressing over the things that really do not matter? What is your focus on? Are you focusing on positive information, positive, news? What are you, those things can really play a big role in terms of how successful you're going to be as a half marathon specialist. You want to surround yourself with positive people, surround yourself with athletes that are better than you. If you can get in a group where you're getting pushed to push past what you think you're capable of, that is great. One of the biggest reasons why I was able to improve my half marathon down to 107.06 and my marathon to 219.35 was because I had athletes around me that I was training with that were so much better than I was. I didn't have the leg speed to break a 4-minute mile. My best mile is 4 minutes and 22 seconds, but I was training with guys that could run a mile in 3 minutes and 54 seconds to 3 minutes and 55 seconds. I was training with half marathon specialists that could run a half marathon in between an hour flat to an hour and 2 minutes, and training with Olympians. Surrounding yourself with those types of athletes where you're forced out of your comfort zone is really critical. And for me to make a video of how to train for a half marathon in 2 months, I just want to stress to you don't get upset if you don't get the results you're looking for after the first 8 weeks are done. Again, you want to focus on the fundamentals. Spend time building up your mileage. Again, if you're brand new to the sport and you're just trying to train for a half marathon in 8 weeks and to start the race and finish the race, you don't need to like jump into doing mile repeats or kilometer repetitions on the track. You don't need to be doing tempo runs necessarily. Again, you have to train in more of a specific way if you're trying to go after a specific race time for the half marathon distance. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, the faster we're trying to race over this particular distance, the more specific training comes into play, where you have to start focusing on, okay, I want to run at this kilometer split per K for the entire 21.1 kilometers, or this particular mile split, and sustain that mile pace over the entire 13.1 mile distance. So again, it depends on what your goals are. Okay, so again, if you're brand new to the sport and you want to run a half marathon for the first time, and you want to train for a half marathon in 2 months, then you can still start and probably succeed and surpass what you think you're even capable of for the half marathon distance, just by running easy, consistent mileage over those 8 weeks. If all you're doing is mileage, I would focus on doing strides 3 times a week, and strides are anywhere from 50 meters to 100 meters in length, where you're kind of just gradually speeding up until you get to about the last 20 meters of that 100-meter sprint. You want to be in an all-out sprint. It's not supposed to be an all-out sprint, but you want to continue to work on your leg turnover. Continue to remind your legs of what you're trying to train them to do. Really focus also on mental training. The great Billy Mills said it best. He said the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between reality or imagination. So the subconscious mind really doesn't know. We sometimes put limits on ourselves, but our subconscious mind doesn't know what our limits really are. If you're a 4-hour marathoner and you want to drop down to under 3 hours for the marathon distance, you have to continually train your mind and spend that time each day visually seeing yourself crossing the finish line with that particular time on the clock. So if you're training for a half marathon, and how to train for a half marathon in 2 months, again, focus on your strengths. If you're brand new to the sport, focus more on mileage and doing those strides, working on building sustained, persistent, consistent training, and putting in those miles every single week, or those kilometers every single week for that 8-week period, and do a 10-day taper. Don't do a 3-week taper. I think it's very important that all of the personal bests I've set on 10-day tapers. So do a 10-day taper if you're brand new. Even if you're experienced and you're trying to train for the half marathon in 2 months, really focus on those fundamentals. Train at, near, or far below your goal half marathon race pace. Continue to do the things that you absolutely must do when you're done training. Make sure you're hydrating well, make sure you're getting enough sleep, focusing on your nutrition. I'll leave links below this video that'll be helpful to you regarding nutrition as well. And if you're brand new to the sport, or if you're brand new to the channel, my name is Nate Pennington. I'm the founder of RunDreamAchieve.com. I've been competing for 28 years, and I'm a former member of the U.S. Army World Class Athlete Program. So I do have a lot of background and experience for from the 5K all the way to the marathon distance. I've run up to 30 miles in training for a lot of my marathon races, so I have done some kind of ultra marathon training as well. And if you're brand new, click on the subscribe button, click on the bell icon, give me a thumbs up, share this video with as many people as you can. And if you're, again, I know you can still prepare well for a half marathon in 2 months, but again, it's going to come down to your background, what you're doing after your training is completed, and if you're focusing on those fundamentals, those principles that really dictate if you're going to be successful over the half marathon distance or not. So I hope this video has been helpful. Leave me a comment below if I've missed something, or if you have another question, or if you have a particular topic that you want me to cover in my next video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.